Okay.
Try it?
Yeah. So we left off with getting the truck dropped off at Zach's house. We got the pump in. We got everything buttoned up. We got it running. We were going to go bring it on a test drive, and the turbo oil feed fitting stripped out of the oil filter housing. So called it a night. Zach replaced the oil filter housing. He went out, ripped the truck a couple times. He said it blew the tires off and felt like a completely different truck. So that's great. He also blew up the 727 while he was at it, which is also great because then it meant that we really needed to get the built 47RH in. So he got the 47RH in, the tranny's all set, ready to go. He wrapped up as much as he could. The tranny cooler got mounted. He ran all the transmission cooler lines. We went over the other night, wrapped up a couple of little miscellaneous things while it was up on the lift. No footage of that. We were just really kind of crunch time, get the truck set on a trailer and ready to get brought over here to where it is now. So it's on the list for me to finish is we have to mount the tranny shifter in the cab because it is full manual valve body. Get that mounted, get that wired for torque converter lockup and overdrive. We have to get the tranny cooler fan wired up and get a transmission mount made up. So I have a generic tranny mount there, cross members in. We have the factory cross member to use or the one from a newer first gen with an A518 in it. We'll see what we got. So we got this thing put up on the finest pre-recall Harbor Freight jack stands, and we're gonna get some work done because it is already the first week of August is done. It's Friday. It's crunch time. We're definitely behind the 8 ball and trying to get this thing done. All right, so we started off underneath the truck. I got this universal transmission mount that I found and have it bolted in the front hole. And then when that's bolted up tight, the space between this mounting pad and there was a perfect 1.25 inches. So I got a piece of 1.25 inch square tube. Got holes cut into it, so these front side are clearance for the head of a socket head cap screw. This will bolt up in there, and then a nut welded inside the tube for the bolt that holds the mount on. And then from there, we have red strap pulling the transmission over to the passenger side to get it centered, just to give extra clearance in the fuel tank here because there's not a lot of room. Once I have this mount situated, we'll get this spaced up off of this cross member and decide if we want to use this cross member or the A518 one, and then build some sort of structure to go and connect to that cross member. So I did go ahead and get the original transmission cross member out. We are going to swap over to the newer style. The main reason is that the step between this front set of bolt holes and the back one is a lot less on this, which will make it easier to create a bracket. Additionally, this has a not much more drop, but probably almost an inch more drop, which is an inch more clearance that we have to get a bracket in there and not have the tranny up so high. So we're gonna get this bolted into position, and then from there, it should be pretty straightforward getting a mount made. So this is what I made up kind of quick and down and dirty for a transmission mount. This step corresponds with the step that's in the cross member. This piece is an offset to match where the rubber mount is. Got it, started to weld it out all nice, and I'm out of gas, which sucks, but I guess that's gonna be it for tonight, getting this done. I'll get gas during the week, get this picked back up, finish welding this out, clean up all the nasty porosity that I have now, and then we'll get this finally installed into the truck and then can continue on with the rest of the stuff. All right, so it's been a little bit, only a couple days. Zach came over the other night. We jammed out a bunch of stuff on the truck. Got the transmission crossmember finished, which I'll show you guys in a little bit. Got that all welded out in place, put the drive shaft in, realized that the drive shaft angle is way out of whack, so I have to redo one piece of that bracket that I made, which isn't a big deal, so we're gonna get that knocked out now that we can kind of see what's going on. Training's all set. Other than that, I got this really slick battery hold on off of Amazon for dirt cheap, so really can't complain about that. That looks good because that was driving me nuts that there's no hold down for the battery. Got a coolant catch can that we're going to get mounted in over there. And then also the other night when he was here, the main thing that we started getting done is we got a mount situated to mount the ratchet shifter for the full manual valve body tranny. So right now it's just vice gripped to the seats, but it's going to connect to the wing here of the seat, so it's going to bolt in on the angle and then bolt in directly into it right there. We have the pedestal coming up, which sits on the floor, has a little bit of pressure on it just to help stabilize things. Kind of don't think it's really needed, but it's already done, and if it really bothered us, we could cut it out after the fact. So now we just need to put a little bit of an angle on top of that piece, I think, to angle the shifter down. That'll get the cable in a good position to go through the firewall, which is going to be by the pedal. So we're gonna get the rest of this bracket tree done, get everything mounted in place roughly, and then start I'll weld this out later, finish the mounts. That's not a huge deal. It's pretty solid with just tacks in it. But we really want to get the shifter cable in and the wiring done so we can test the tranny to make sure everything's good there, and for whatever reason there's something else stupid going on that would give us a hard issue. Because right now, we'd be leaving exactly 1 week from tonight. So it is definitely crunch time. All right, so we got the rest of the mount all tacked together, and just with tacks in place, the thing is solid. It pretty much shakes the whole truck. Got the cable routed, cable through the firewall. You can see there, it goes to the right of the throttle, right about even with the bolt hole. I wouldn't go much higher with that because along with everyone else that uses this kit, the cable is definitely on the short side. I'll go down and I'll show you underneath, but that cable goes through the firewall, have it routed through a nice little grommet, and then you can see the bright orange cable there sticking through, takes a bend, goes right down to the starter, and then matches up with the tranny. So we did get that all set. We got it all dialed in according to the instructions. We did get the truck filled with tranny fluid, shift through the gears, everything's good there. The crossmember bracket that I made, I did remake. And then right now the next step is electrical, so we have to get the tranny cooler wired up and then the switches for overdrive and lockup. So there you can see the crossmember piece. So originally it had a 45-degree bend that dropped it down. And then after getting the drive shaft in and everything like that, we had to raise the tranny up. It's still not perfect, but it pretty much is as high up as it can go now with that plate. So overall, it's 3 pieces, a 3/8 plate that are welded together, and then bolts into the cross member, bolts into the tranny with that piece of square tube there, acts as a spacer for the back of that transmission mount. Here's the bracket on the tranny. Did have to do a little bit of clearancing along here, just to match the pan and stuff like that. That's what we use for a fitting. So 45 coming off the tranny with a straight adapter, and then a 90 degrees hose end. Gets the hose pointed in a pretty good direction. And then, like I said, this is all set. The linkage is tight. You want to make sure that when this piece goes into the shift linkage, that there's no binding and it's nice and even there. So everything's tight down here. Like I said, we just got to work on routing electrical to this plug here, which we do have a pigtail for that, which is good because those are kind of hard to find. All right, so just wrapped up making the harness that's going to control the transmission. There's a total of 4 wires. There's a ground, which is this main wire that runs through the shifter and the cab. The switches ultimately control the ground side of the coil for all the solenoids and the tranny. And then there's a key-on wire that goes to the center port of the plug, which is this one here, which we were able to find a source for the 47RH electrical connector that I guess is really hard to find. We were able to get one off of a parts truck, which was nice. But this is that end of the harness. The middle pin gets key-on power, which I've been using this relay here, which is for the lift pump, which is the same spot that I used towards the bed to tie in for the trainee cooler fan. So we're just gonna finish routing this down below through the frame rail and such. We got everything wired up inside the cab. Got really nice Deutsch connectors on both ends of the wires here. Way overkill, but it just makes it really nice. Wrap the orange cable in some split loom there so it all blends in nice and matches the wiring. So that'll get ran under the dash, tied up all nice, and that way if we ever have to pull anything out, it's just unplug and go, and it's not a big deal. And then this plug actually does fit through the hole in the firewall, which is a good bonus. That just makes things easier as well. So we're gonna finish up the electrical, probably test it, and then it'll be finishing burning in all the brackets here and getting rid of the vice grips. So in the back, we got the wiring all done for the transmission cooler. I threw an extra P-clip through this bolt here just to hold everything nice and tight, tucked up all the way. Used another 2-pin Deutsch connector here. That's a DT series. The one I used for the shifter is a DTM, which is smaller gauge wire. And then this wire just ran up to the fuel pump on the side of the rail that he has, and I just tied into that electrical since it's all key on. But this works good. Have it set up for a puller fan, so it pulls air this way. We can always swap that around by just repinning that connector if we ever have issues.